This section will look at the actual juvenile courts. We'll start with a discussion of why and how the courts were created in the United States. We'll also consider many of the main issues that confront the courts and some of the more recent trends and changes in juvenile courts. The first juvenile court was created in 1899 in Chicago, often referred to as Cook County, since that's the county that had jurisdiction over Chicago. Before the creation of the juvenile courts, children were brought into adult court and dealt with as adult offenders. The big change in Cook County was that prior to the juvenile courts, that children who were dependent, abused, or neglected were in one court, and those that violated the law were put in adult court. Once the juvenile court was created, these children were all dealt with by the same courts. The idea of juvenile courts caught on quickly across the nation, and by 1905, 31 states had juvenile courts. By 1928, only 2 courts in the U.S. did not have juvenile courts. The main guiding principle of the juvenile courts were that children could be rehabilitated, and that efforts to do so should be made whenever possible. Youth should not be labeled early in life as criminals. And the idea that the state should stand in the role of the parent, and you'll hear the term parens patriae often, as it's Latin for the role of the parent. That concept was germane and instrumental for juvenile court. So there are some very basic tenets of juvenile court. One is that it's a bit less formal than regular adult court, and the other is that it should be confidential, meaning that it's not open to the public. And while on its face those ideas are appealing, they are a double-edged sword. The text also cites to the recent situation where a judge was associated with the building of residential treatment centers where juveniles were then housed. This was a juvenile court judge, and it appears that he was able to profit personally from the building of the youth center. This Kids for Cash case occurred in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, and the scandal unfolded in 2008. It was eventually discovered that this judge was imposing incredibly harsh sanctions involving long terms of punishment in the facilities he was associated with building, when these youth were then also being committed for incredibly minor offenses. The judge was eventually indicted and convicted under racketeering charges. If you're interested, the story is detailed in a documentary called Kids for Cash. But the point here, for the purpose of our discussion today, is whether this concept of confidentiality of the courts protects children, or does it actually get in the way of allowing transparency of the courts? Had the juvenile court been open in Luzerne County, then some of the abuses by this judge might have been uncovered sooner and prevented. I'm not trying to say that confidentiality is a bad thing. It does sometimes prevent the press from covering stories in juvenile court, which probably does protect some juveniles. It's just that it can be a double-edged sword at times. The same goes for the concept of informality. Informality allows for some flexibility, but the formal rules of the criminal system are in place to assure that the defendant has certain rights afforded to him, what's known as due process and equal protection, which makes the process more fair.